Hi, I'm Alison Bushell. I'm the cake doctor. I'm actually going to do a series of masterclasses going back to basics, starting with roses and lavender and working our way through various different flowers over the next few weeks. If possible, I might even do some buttercream flowers and show you how to do that too. I hope you enjoy. By all means, get in touch if you don't understand something or you need clarification. I'm more than happy to help. Thanks. Today we're going to make a traditional rose using a 5-petal rose cutter. I'm actually going to use Renshaw's modelling paste, flower and modelling paste. There's lots of different ones you can use. Squire's is very good. Platinum paste is fantastic if you know what you're doing, but I wouldn't use it if you're a beginner. But as a good all-rounder, you can't go wrong with Renshaw's flower and modelling paste. Okay, so you're going to need some of that. You're going to need a 5-petal rose cutter, and you're going to need a wire. With wires, these are Hammerworths. The higher the number, the fatter the wire. So I've got here 20s, 24s, and I think these 32s, these 30s. These are the 30s. Okay. The 30s I'd only ever use for tiny little flowers. 24s are good all-rounders. I use them for all sorts of flowers. I use them for leaves. This is just a very good all-round wire to use. But for roses, you need a 20, and it's because the rose is so much bigger flower and it's heavier. So you need the strength of the wire to take the weight of the paste. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is make the centre for our rose. So I've taken a piece of 20 wire, it's a quarter of a length. I'm now just going to bend the top into a hook. Now it needs to be a hook, not a shepherd's crook, because if you push it too far, so that's the hook we want. If you push it in too far, let me just do it now. So you have this shape. It's got nothing to grab hold of, so you need to make sure that that is a proper hook. The first thing I'm going to do is make the centre for my rose. So I've taken some paste out of the packet of Renshaw's. Now I've been doing this job over 10 years, and I learnt this about a year ago. On the back it says pull. If you peel that label off, you can then fold your paste over, and this will actually keep your paste fresh for you. Okay, so going back to this. I'm just going to make it nice and make a ball. It needs to be about the size of a chickpea. I'm going to thread this through so that the hook is catching into that paste. Okay, and I'm going to bring that up into a point. So we want this, I want a nice cone shape, the flat bottom. Okay, now to check that that is correct, the correct size for the rose that I want, I'm going to take my 5-petal rose cutter, and I'm going to put this into the centre. The base of this rose should be the centre of that circle. So if I pop that in there like that, this tip should come halfway up the petal. The actual width of the cone should fit just into the centre of the bottom of the rose, of the rose petal. Okay, if you do that, you can guarantee that your rose will come together nicely. It has to have a point, because if it doesn't have a point, when you try and wrap the paste around it, you'll find it very difficult to get a decent centre. It will be too fat, and you'll end up seeing the cone, which is we don't ever want to see the cone. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is colour my paste. I've got my Renshaw nice and soft. I'm going to show you how to do it so you don't get it all over your hands as well. Okay, I'm going to use Sugarcraft Rose, which is a really pretty, lovely pink colour. I use it an awful lot actually. Okay, so make a sausage, cut it down the middle like you're making a hot dog. Open it out. Okay, and with a cocktail stick, you're going to butter the inside of that sausage, just like that. The trick is to not get it all over your hands. Okay, so you're then going to roll this up. And you're going to keep rolling it, stretching it and rolling it, fold it in on itself, same again. And you keep going and keep going, and you should end up with a nice even colour after a little while. And just to quickly show you, nothing on my hands. Okay. So I've rolled this paste out nice and thin. It should be the thickness of parchment paper, you don't want it thick at all. So I'm just going to cut out a 5-petal rose cutter. You need to press down evenly, give it a wiggle. I always say give it a wiggle, because if you hear that scratchy sound, you know that your cutter has gone all the way through, and it will release from the actual cutter very easily. Right, so the next thing we need to do is thin the edges of your petals. So first of all, you need to make sure that each petal is separate. It should be if you press down hard enough. Okay, now with a ball tool, I always use a metal ball tool. You can use a plastic one, there's no reason why you can't. I use a metal one because you get a smoother finish on it. The plastic ones, you've got to be very careful because sometimes they have a seam over them and it will actually tear as you try to do this. So just check if you've got a plastic ball tool that there's no ridge, no seam on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the ball tool half on that petal and half off. Okay, and I'm going to press nice and hard just to thin that edge. If I do it wrong, if I don't have it half on half off, I have it too close to the edge, I get this shape happening, which is like a cupped edge, which you don't want. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So half on, half off. Nice and simple. Do it on a foam mat because it's got a bit of give and it means that your paste won't tear. Right, so I'm going to put edible glue all over the centre of this rose. You want it damp, you don't want it wet. Okay, slide this onto my hand and you have got 5 petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 1 is going to be pulled up and brought as tight around that centre as I can get it so that I can't see the cone inside. Then 1, 2, 3. I'll put some glue on number 3 and I'm going to do the same with that one. Bring it up and as tight around that centre as I can get it. I then got glue on the left hand side of each petal, which I'm now going to bring up to touch the centre of the cone. Okay, so bring it up, touch the centre of the cone. It should look like a propeller from the top. What I'm then going to do is put a little bit of glue on the bottom edge of each petal and I'm going to wrap it around the centre. Okay, we use this magic part of my hand here just to squish the bottom of the rose into position, and if you left it at that stage you would have a rosebud, but we're actually going to put a second layer on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually add a second layer. What I've done is I've taken my original paste and I mixed it 50-50 with white. So that way you get a natural graduation of colour. So that's the original colour, that's 50-50, which is what this is. So let's take this onto my hand. I'm going to put a little bit of glue into the centre. Not much, just as I say, just want it damp. And then I'm going to put my rose centre in the middle. And this is very similar to what we did before. I'm going to go to the left hand side of each petal. You can go to the right, but you have to keep it the same. So if you if your natural instinct is to go to the right hand side of the petal, that's fine as long as they're all to the right, but I naturally go to the left. I think it's just something to do with the way your brain is wired. Okay, so what we're going to do now is bring these up to touch the center again, and you're going to fit them in so that they overlap with each other. Well, if I haven't got enough glue on there, that'll be why. Okay, bring that up, and then again, a little bit of glue along the bottom of each petal, and we'll bring those round. If you find that they start to droop and you can't, or they start to fall off, tip the whole thing upside down. It doesn't matter as long as you have them all going the same way. And again, you're going to pinch them in, magic part of your hand just to squeeze the bottom, and as you can see, it's really starting to look like a rose now. Okay, so that's our second layer, and we're going to do the same with a third. We're now going to add a third layer to your rose. As you can see, I've done it again. Whatever I had, that I diluted it 50-50 with more white to get the graduation of colour. So it's very subtle, but when you look at the rose, it makes it look more natural. Okay, so again, on the left hand side of each petal. You don't want it too much water, because if you put too much water, too much glue on, it will slide around when you try and put it on. So slide through the middle. Okay, now the easiest way to do it with the third layer is to turn it upside down. Okay, so again, we're going to make sure that we've got under over all the way around, like that. Flip it up the right way, and just put a little bit of glue on the petal, the side of the petal that hasn't got any on. Okay, have I done that one? Yeah, I've done that one. Okay, and we're going to squeeze the bottom part of our hand again, and if you look at it from the top, you've got this beautiful full rose. I quite often leave it with just two. I think sometimes the full one can be just a little bit too much. If you find like this petal is starting to droop, rather than just standing it in your oasis to dry, try tipping it upside down, putting a hook in it, and put it on your oasis upside down until it dries off a little bit. I think that works a treat. Okay, so I have coloured some paste with Colour Splash Leaf Green, which is a nice mid leaf green colour. Rolled it out nice and thin, and now I'm going to cut out a calyx to fit on the back of that rose. Okay, gives me this nice little calyx shape. Pop that in there a minute. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some nicks into it, just with a pair of scissors, nice sharp scissors. So just tiny little nicks into the calyx, like that. And then just with a ball tool, I'm just going to elongate that little bit, just to take the cut edge off so it doesn't look like you've just been cut out with a stamp. Okay, take that off. And then we are going to put some edible glue on this all over. And I'm just going to use this little one and slap that on the back, like that. Fit it into place. And then, okay, so to finish this off, I've cut a piece of florist tape in half lengthways, and I'm going to elongate it. By elongating it, you activate the glue. As you can see, I've cut it on a bit of an angle, so if I put this on my finger and pinch, that tape is now attached to my wire. Keep this tight and turn the wire. Don't be tempted to wrap it round the other way because it'll fall off. It always does. Okay, there we go. Nicely taped wire. The last thing that we're going to do, just to finish it off, is with a bit of green. We'll roll this into a cone, or cone shape. Put a little bit of edible glue on the tip. Okay, push that on the back there like that, push it up, turn it into a rose hip, and there you have it, the finished rose. You could put that in a bouquet, a wide bouquet. You put it in for wedding flowers, for birthday. You could do it for all sorts of stuff. They are so pretty and so versatile. I hope you enjoyed.